Great. So that means I can't say anything bad about you, right, Kathy?
That's right.
I don't anyway. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and especially you know, Mike and Brian and the folks you're going to hear from on what we all think is a very, very interesting capability that has tremendous potential to transform, and I'll use that word, transform, how we manage talent and how we get talent placed in places that we need it in this industry. And I think we all know that we're all short talent, and that's across the board. But when you hear this, when you see the demonstration and you understand the motivation that was behind putting this together and the years of development that went into this, and that motivation being primarily to get veterans placed where they best fit, and in many cases it's where they least expect maybe where they might fit in our industry that needs their talent, and we all know that. So for me, kind of the bottom line up front is this is a tremendous capability. It's got tremendous potential, and like I said, to transform from both an industry side and an individual side, how we make the right matches to really fill the needs that we have. So I just want to thank everybody for participating, and again, I just want to make sure that we're all clear. The purpose of this pilot test for the next 3 months is to really assess from an industry perspective, you know, how this capability works for you. Yeah, there might be some HR people that kind of start scratching their heads going, well, you know, we're used to the old way of job fairs and da 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 da. But maybe it's time to transform to a way that accelerates the process, but more importantly, not just accelerates the process, but I think more importantly, really helps an individual see where they might fit. And I would just tell you, when I came out of uniform, I really had some clue, but not a total clue of where I might fit on the outside. And as I look back over the last 10 years since I retired, that's actually almost 12. If I knew what I know now, I might have gone some different directions. And I can tell you that this capability is going to help people figure out a better starting direction. So I'm going to stop there and say thanks again. Appreciate everybody participating. And Mike and your team, I'm looking forward to a great pilot. So thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Joe. Again, we really appreciate the opportunity. And again, we like getting things out in the field and tested and getting people to kick tires and tell us what they don't like. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Great. It's all yours.
Cool. Jeff, I'll let you give the 1 minute background on us if you don't mind, and then I'll jump into this thing.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks. Yeah, thank you, Joe and Kathy. Really appreciate all the effort to date. So, what you're going to see here in the next 30 minutes or so is a very innovative technology and kind of data science approach to kind of changing the way labor demand and supply interact. And we'll show you how your industry and your company can benefit either directly or indirectly, depending on how much you want to engage in the system. And this pilot will really kind of allow you to kind of see first line how it works. So not to go into too much detail about our backgrounds, but I will highlight some very relevant parts that are kind of germane to this topic. Mike, Brian, Alex, and I have very similar backgrounds. That includes military service, corporate America. It includes anything from operations, strategy, IT consulting type, and then probably more relevant is well over a dozen plus years working in the defense services industry. Where we were basically in the operational trenches, winning work, and then responsible for turning around and filling all those positions, across thousands of different labor categories for various agencies, to actually execute that work. So all that experience that kind of included a lot of like anger and frustration kind of drove us to think differently and find alternative solutions on how we can actually source staff and optimize our labor to really thrive in that market, and more out of the necessity too, because we were competing against the big companies like Northrop and Lockheed's so when we were, on a relatively small to them, so we had to become very innovative on how we competed against them. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike, but Mike is he's the CEO of our company Opline, and well as the architect behind what you're going to see here. So as Mike goes through it, Brian and I and Alex will monitor the chats and the Q&A. So feel free to ask any questions as we go along. Any very broad, very germane questions, we can keep to the end and we can address those in. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. So what we'll do here is I'll walk you through about, sort of 5 minutes of PowerPoint, just to get you ready for kind of what you're going to see, give you some context of what the technology does. So Opline itself is the name of the system. So Opline is the core. It's the AI technology that runs it. And then today we're going to also talk about VetLine, which is the applications that run on top of Opline, which allow vets to see jobs and how they align to different jobs, and allows companies that want to hire vets to kind of understand that alphabet soup of what veterans have from MOSs and ASIs and all that, how that aligns them to any job that a company is posting. So like I said, so we'll do 5 minutes of PowerPoint, and then we'll jump into the technology demo, and we'll run through that, and we'll have plenty of time for interaction and questions, etc. So I know no one loves PowerPoint, so I'll go through it fairly quickly. Again, so when we started talking with Joe and the good folks at Society of American Military Engineers, I think we both saw that there was this opportunity for a huge Pareto positive, sort of project to come across all the agents that are involved here. So, Joe understands that the constituent companies, they all want to hire veterans for all the great values veterans bring. And of course, you want to hire, not only hire them, but you want to help all these veterans find the right job, no matter what company it is. And you want to help veterans understand as they transition, how they can best use their talents coming into a commercial enterprise. And then what we really want to do is we want to give the Society of American Military Engineers the data. So the data of how the market is developing and moving and evolving around getting this talent to the right spot. Like, as HVACs evolve into building information managers, or as civil engineers coming out of the military can go in lots of different directions. We want to be able to see that and to share it with all the constituents. So that's some of the goals that are going on here. All right, so the impetus of this, as Joe said at the very beginning, was this huge issue, or this huge gap in understanding between veterans and the companies that want to hire them. And that's not universal, but it's in general. So here on the right side, you have companies that want to hire veterans, and they publish, literally thousands of jobs every night, and they push them out there so veterans can see them. But sort of the issue is a job, or a job posting, is an analog document. It's got a description, it's got a title, it's got 3 to 20 bullet points of requirements, but it's still analog in that a veteran literally has to see it, has to then translate their skills to it, see that understands, and then in most cases has to rewrite their resume in the same language the company is using it, and then send it back across the analog chasm into an ATS. So there's this really arduous system that's going on, and it's all driven because the exchange mechanism is analog. It's just words. So that's kind of what we saw. We saw the issue was that there was no exchange mechanism to allow vets and companies that want to hire them to immediately understand how they align and then become aware of each other. So what Opline is, like Jeff said, it's a data science, it's AI, it's cloud technologies all brought together. And what it's doing at any given time is it's looking at all the jobs posted in the labor market, and it's bringing in all their requirements. And then it's interrogating each requirement, structuring it, and relating it to all the requirements it saw before. So basically everything it sees today, it relates to everything it saw yesterday, to the day before that, et cetera. And so what we've been doing over the last 4 years with the system is basically teaching the machine how to understand what a company is asking for. And that means in terms of experience and certifications and skills and clearances and IT languages and IT operating systems. So all of that is now basically turned into ones and zeros. So we basically create a data cloud, excuse me, that's on a pure ones and zeros schema. And now that we have this understanding of this information and turn it into data, well, we can take all your jobs and then sort of overnight or over a couple of days, turn them into fully structured data. And so the reason that's important is because once you have fully structured data, and here's sort of a very high level snapshot of the structured data you'll see in the system for the Society of American Military Engineers syndicate we're building. Once you have that structured data, well, now that's demand. So you now have structured demand. And once you have that, well, you can now take supply, which is all the veterans, and in a very rapid manner, basically 60 seconds a person, you can have them turn themselves into data, and that data is directly aligning to the jobs that you have posted at any given time. So that's what we're going to show you. We're going to show you, we bring in the demand, we structure it, then the veterans show up, they go through this process where they basically, instead of giving you a 5-page resume that's all analog text, they give you sort of an offline profile that takes 60 seconds, and then suddenly a data set that's constantly syncing to any jobs you may have on the market at any given time. So if you think of in the middle of this is the offline cloud, the data cloud, which is the exchange. And on one side, it's your jobs coming in every day, or however often you refresh them. We'll pick them up. We'll basically put them in the cloud, the Society of American Engineers cloud. And then all these engineers or 12 Bravos or 11 Bravos, whatever they are, these veterans coming to the site, basically have this interaction, convert themselves. They can see which jobs they're aligned to. And more importantly, you get the data to see who coming into the system is aligned to your jobs. So that's how, we're trying to use this technology and sort of this advanced ML to basically make everybody's life easier. So sort of take the transaction costs out of even finding the right people to start talking to. And that's on both sides of this equation. All right, so that's, and then because this is a syndicate, what you're going to see here is, not only, sorry, I went a little quickly, not only can we do this, can we exchange, people and jobs in one area and then hand the data to both people? Well, we're going to do it at scale. And so to get folks to come into this syndicate, we have lots of different channels to go find these vets, these transitioning military folks, these military spouses, and bring them into the system. And so one is, we'll put the vet line channel right there on the Society of American Military Engineers career site. So it'll be a beacon right there. I'll also show you how we can use sort of the cloud, we can push it out into social media so that you don't need veterans to come to your site. Basically, you can push it out in front of them wherever they're at in cyberspace and get them to run into it. You can gather their data that way. And then I'll show you also how Upline curates information that comes to it from the user side so that we can find the optimal people in our own system and then send them through to the Society of American Military Engineers as well. And once they have the data, then they automatically syndicate it to all members of the syndicate. So again, this is a way to find a whole bunch of new veterans that not only qualified for your jobs, but probably would never see them in another way. So we're gonna not only grow the pie, we're gonna make the pie more useful. All right, so what I'll now show you inside the technologies, I'll show you sort of these 4 steps, and it's running counterclockwise here. So I'm gonna show you how we automatically pick up the jobs that your companies are creating. So we pick them up, we screen them into Upline, the cloud, the AI works on it and turns them into structured demand. And now once it's sitting there in that cloud, we bring in the supply or the individual veterans. And they come in, and within a 60-second interaction, they give us their data. And now we have a data-to-data match. So in step 3, the data syncs. That means the veterans know which jobs they're aligning to. And now that the same has the data, they syndicate it back to all the companies in step 4, so that now companies can see how veterans are aligning to their jobs. So that's what I'll jump in right now to the system. I'll kind of show you sort of this interaction. So we'll jump in and we'll talk about all the stuff I've just sort of kind of talked about the last 5 minutes. We'll go through, chronologically, sequentially, and a lot slower. But I just wanted to give you sort of that the initial understanding that what we're going to do is we're going to turn everything in the system is going to be data. So it's not semantic search anymore. And now that it's data, we're going to be exchanging it. All right, so let me drag this over. Okay, so this is offline for an enterprise user or for a company user. And the first thing I wanted to show you is, so I'm on this company called MAG Aerospace. So, MAG's a defense contractor, an aviation company, IT and aviation up in DC, around the world. And they give me permission to show sort of the back end here, as long as it's not to a direct competitor. So I know no one here is a direct competitor. So all I wanted to show you was, so here's this company called MAG. And if I come here and I click on demand line, what I'm showing you is here are the jobs they have live on their site right now. So you can see it's about 160 jobs. And what Opline does is it goes out and it looks at the requirements those jobs have. And once it sees the requirements, it interrogates them, it turns them into code, and then it basically says, okay, based on these requirements, this job is in the aviation family or the Intel family or software or hardware or management. And it's not looking at titles, what it's looking at is the actual requirements, the bullet points that say this many years, this education, this certification. So now I clicked on aviation and you can see it's broken into pilots and sensor operators and, fixed wing mechanics. And so the reason it's doing that is because the system is actually looking at the requirements right here. So it's not looking at the title, ground school aviation instructor. It's looking at, here's exactly what MAG is saying you have to have in order to be qualified for this job. And so if you click through here anywhere, you see there's basically the bullet points. Here's a certification for a medical. Here's a certification for a deployment type. And so you can go anywhere in demand. You can change it from pilot. Let's go down to hardware. And you can see this is very different. Network systems, so they're not asking about certifications for pilot. They're asking, hey, do you have a CCNP? Do you have a Juniper certification? Can you do IPsec? So wherever Opline looks or slews and queues, it's picking up what the company is asking. So you can see network looks very different than pilot. And if I go to something else, let's go into logistics. Logistics manager looks different than pilot or network. So again, if you ask something to happen, you ask for a requirement, Opline will pick it up. So I just showed you this really quickly because I wanted to show you that. All right, so there is demand going on right in front of you. Now, if I go over to MAG Aero's career site, so again, this is just a quick little MAG Aero space right there. If I go over to MAG Aero's career site, so if I click on careers, what you're going to see is there's a working at MAG search jobs. All right, there's Vetline right there. So what this is doing is we took all that demand you just saw and we put it right here in MAG's cloud, right on their career site, so that this person could have an interaction. And so I'm just showing you that it's here because someone will come in and give this interaction. I'm going to do it for the same here right in a second. We'll have this interaction where they talk about branch and rank and MOS. And with that interaction alone, we're able to capture their data. So I'm going to come back into the system. So that's the concept, that if I put the data into a cloud and put it in front of them, that interaction will allow that person to come through. So, and what happens is, now you have demand. What happens when that person comes through? Well, they become supply. And so now what you can see is, now I captured supply. And so here's folks that are coming through to MAG, and you capture their information right away. And the reason you want this is because now you're basically creating a data set of supply, which is consistent, persistent, and always there. All right, so that's the concept. So now let's go in and look at it for real and start doing it for the Scientific American Military Engineers. Starting today, we're going to start bringing folks in, putting them directly on top of your jobs and demand, and making sure everybody understands what the Pareto positive outcome is for all agents in the system. All right. So I came back, I now changed my view in Opline from MAG's demand to the Society of American Military Engineers. And what that means is we can take companies, take their demand, and then aggregate it under the Society of American Military Engineers. As you see for today, for the demonstration, I pulled in 10 companies. So you can see, their names are right here. So here's the names of the companies. It's got sort of the number of jobs they have open right now on their site. And sometimes the job number is higher because if you post one position but multiple locations, it'll spread it out into multiple locations. So so that's why it could be an overcount here. It's really just making sure it's in front of everybody. All right, and you can see this is the company. I can click on area, and it's going to change the view from a data perspective. And you can see this is not a surprise that, huge number of jobs sort of in the engineering family. I can click on engineering, and you can see, a lot in civil, a lot in electrical systems, engineering management, CAD, et cetera, et cetera. I can get even more granular. I can hit on function, and you can see civil engineer, project managers, engineering management, CAD techs, et cetera. So all the data is here. And again, the data is here because we turned it into data so that supply or veterans could run into it and very easily understand what they can do and then hand you the data as well. All right, so this is the demand side. And again, just to show you, all right, so if I click on Jacobs, you'll see it breaks down into all their component types. And then if I click on civil engineering, you'll see there's, again, we pick up the requirements, turn them into data, and then relate them to each other. So, so that you can see them right here. And the other thing about it is we don't change the language you use. So all we're doing is picking up the requirements that you say on your site, and then basically interrogating that against all the data we have in the world. Because what we don't want is we don't want you spending lots of times rewriting your job descriptions or cutting and pasting things. No, we're trying to save you time, not create more work. All right, so now that we understand there's a data cloud right here, what we're going to do is we're going to basically start bringing in veterans in many different ways. We said there's like 3 or 4 channels we're going to start using right away. And what we're going to do is we're going to bounce veterans against that demand cloud. All right, so this is what a veteran would see when they come into the system and they click on the VetLine logo. And basically there's a little bit of communications there that said, hey, if you're a veteran, come in, have this interaction, and then see how you sync to all the jobs that we have. So let's make up a veteran for today. So March 1st, and so this person came in. All right, and so now all they have to do is tell us branch. So, hey, I'm in the US Navy. Like, hey, are you enlisted? Are you a warrant officer? Are you an O? Let's say I'm an E6. And, here's sort of the leveling, less than 5 years, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, et cetera. And then right here, all it is, hey, just type what your rate is. I'm an aviation maintenance, I'm a boatswain's mate, so type what it is, the system will pop it up for you. And then I click the, hey, I'm transitioning, so I'm still active. All right, so this is how Opline is changing everything. When they hit save, every other system in the world says, all right, dump your resume in here, we'll send it to a bunch of people, maybe they'll read it, maybe they won't. What we do is we say, oh, I see you're a hull tech, an E6 hull tech coming out of the Navy. It runs back to the data cloud and says, based on what this person is telling you right now, what I want to see are the next 40 most important skills, experiences, certifications, advanced schools that help this person align to the job set that is sitting there in the Society of American Military Engineers. And so what happens is you can read it like, hey, everyone wants to know about Microsoft Office. Almost everybody in this group wants to know about CAD use. And then because you're an E6 in hull tech, we know you have certain skills already at your core because the Navy has given them to you over that many years. But what we don't know is, hey, do you have any of these certifications? Because that would really help. And hull techs probably have some of this stuff because they've been doing it for 8 years if you're an E6. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a HVAC journeyman. Actually, I am a certified welder and I do welding inspections because that's basically my job. And then you're like, oh, we'd also like to know if you do cableway certifications. So right on top here, we know that this guy had, 7 years experience as a hull tech. We know they have a high school degree because they're in the Navy. Now we know their major certifications. And again, these are being brought over based on what the demand is in the cloud at the time. So now they're asking all these things about industrial networking protocols, and can you use, different sort of OEM equipment. And then down here, it's like, okay, I know you're a hull tech. You probably been a machinist or a mechanic or a maintenance tech. Other things that are tangential to your prime job in the Navy, but we're like, there's a good chance with that many years experience, you were doing other things. You worked as a CAD tech, you went back to C school, you learned how to do AutoCAD, there it is right in front of you. You're a rigger operator, makes sense. And if you went to work for depot level, you probably are even a DBA. So, and then down here, as Jeff said, we came from the contracting world. So we know every government contractor wants to know, do you have a passport, do you have a driver's license, and what level of clearance do you have? Because if you have those things, we can get you in a lot faster. All right, so this kid came in, he interacted with the system, for 60 seconds because he's just reading these and clicking them off. Well, when he hits save, that English he's reading, 2 years experience as a maintenance tech, well, that's a code in the system. And everything he clicks off is a code in the system. So when he clicks save, it creates a data map of this individual. And that is now compared exactly to the data cloud that the Society of American Military Engineers has up. So now we can come back and say, hey, based on what you told us, here's a list of jobs that it's highly likely you are fully qualified for. So now you can see, cable installer and training technician. And the further you go down here, you can see, carpenter, welder would be on here, pipe fitter, HVAC, so the jobs are right here for him. So he can see, all right, here's my shot group. I'm looking at the right things. And because it's such a big return, this guy's pretty valuable in this. Well, he can say, look, I'm only looking for jobs in Virginia right now. So he has the ability to do searching here by location, by company, et cetera. So he can, hit the button, and it takes it right to that company's job. So we're going to take these veterans, we're going to put them on top of the right job so that you can see them. We'll even bring them right to that career site so they can apply to it. So they can, they can do a traditional manner of putting a resume into an ATS. But more importantly is this interaction, we just grab that information. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So now the Society of American Military Engineers, well, they know what that E6 HVAC, they know his data set because he handed it to them. And so I'm going to show you that right here. So I go up to here again. So here's demand line. We talked about that. Well, if I hit this thing called supply line, I'm going to show you that's the new supply right there. March 1 veteran. So this guy came in, I just made him in front of you. And now what you're going to see is we're basically going to grab his data and sync it to the data set. So here you can see U.S. Navy hull tech, 7 years, E6. So now the system will automatically sync him to the data set every night in a batch process. I'm just going to sync him right now in front of you so you can see how the machine actually works. So I hit sync. It's now running out there and it's done syncing. So you hit refresh. And what it's going to do is it's going to grab that interaction that kid just had at the Society of American Military Engineers website or on their VetLine social push. It'd be good if I hit the button. Or that he had inside Opline, and then we're going to bring the data to you. So it's taking a few seconds because there's a lot that he's syncing to. So I'll come through here. And once the data is, again, so this is an automatic batch process we run, sort of every night. So you don't have to do this continuously. All right, there we go. All right, so you're going to see what this return is you can see, hey, there are 6 jobs we know that this person is right on top of that meets all the qualifications. There's 6 that he's technically fit for. So we use this term technical fitness for individuals, for candidates, because if you're the more technically fit you are, the better you are as a candidate. So you can see, there's these jobs that he's technically fit for. They're listed right here so you can see them. So again, I can open one of these jobs up, and then I can see sort of his fits and his gaps. Second coming up. And then down here you see where it says job alignment 81. Well, initial alignment means your gap to these jobs. So this person, we don't know if this person has all the qualifications. Give me a second. Has all the qualifications, but again, you can see the jobs here. So, all right. So I just wanted to show you that. All right. So we just did this person. Let's do one more, and then I'll show you the syndication process. So let's go back to this. So I did just to show you, like, wherever the system slews and queues, it doesn't matter. So it's a U.S. Air Force at 12.com. And I don't know a lot about the Air Force, so I always like doing these because then we'll see, yeah, I'm always surprised as well. So let's do Prince Edward Island. All right, U.S. Air Force, let's say E5, and you know, something people would care about here. So some sort of civil engineering structural. All right, I don't know what that is, but it seems like that'd be something that signed military engineers would care about. All right, so this person that was a Air Force E5, sort of in the civil engineering part, I guess be equivalent to CVs. You can see, again, helping the contractors out immediately. Do you have a passport? Do you have a driver's license? Do you have a level of clearance? I'd really like to know that. We know he has high school. We're like, hey, what about an associate's degree? Hey, if you have an EIC, that'll get you even better up the chain for all these jobs that are out there. You have WASR certification would be really nice to know. All right. Any of these sort of journeyman licenses. And then, you know, everyone has to know about Microsoft Office and CAD software. And again, now you're seeing things again that help this sort of engineering tech, you know, sort of electrical guy get on top of the right jobs. Again, I don't know a lot about the Air Force, but since we're in this kind of a construction CV type area, yep, it's asking about, can you do construction management? Are you an electrician? What about heavy equipment? You know, inventory control, hazmat tech, all these things, you know, construction estimator that basically are being asked for by the companies that are in this cloud to get this person on top of the jobs as fast as possible. So now this person clicks save. All right, and then boom, there it is. The data comes to them again, and you can see it's the companies that are in the cloud right now or in the Society of American Military Engineers syndicate. Their jobs come through immediately. So now this person is aware of your companies. He's aware of the jobs of those companies. He can make a much tighter group. Like, again, most people look by function first and then location. So now they've made him aware. He'll hit the jobs he thinks he's most aligned to. He'll drop his resume into the ATS. And so then we'll help folks, even without basically putting them into the system, we're going to help you see more of the right veterans through your standardized systems right away. You know, we're going to up the yield of what's going on in your ATS. More importantly, again, let's just go back here in supply line list. You know, this guy came through. So again, he came through. So now we have the data. So Society of American Military Engineers has the data, you know, and it's there. Well, folks in the syndicate also have this data. So here's what I mean by that. Once this individual hits the Society of American Military Engineers and basically hands that data to them, the syndication process happens. So by that I mean the data came in and it's pushed out immediately to all the companies that are in that syndicate, in the S2 syndicate. So here I am. I'm over at Jacobs. Let me make sure this is Jacobs. So yeah, if I look here, so this is Jacobs Engineering. I'm not looking at their data set. This is their demand. And again, if I go right here to the supply, what you're going to see is there's the two guys we just made. You know, there's that. Sorry, I mean this guy this morning. There's this guy we just made. It's a U.S. Army guy, and I will pull him over, and you can see he's synced up. And this one happened to be 11 Charlie. So here's the U.S. Air Force guy we just made. One of the things that on our side that we try to do a lot is we try to help the combat arms guys in the military really understand what's available to them. So here, I'll show you again in a second. We do a really deep dive on kind of anything a combat arms guy can do that's related to the jobs you have open. And then we kind of, we make sure that that data is in front of them in this interaction. Because the 11 Bravo infantry guys of the world, the 0311s, they're the ones that, don't really understand how they align to the market. And so, we really try to work, as you see this 11 Charlie right here, we really try to work that data for them. All right, you saw I just brought over this US Air Force guy that we just made. And you saw how he aligned to Jacob's jobs. Sorry, I'll do it again. He aligned to Jacob's jobs. And then you could see how he was aligned to Jacob's jobs through the data that was brought there. I shall go over here. And then once he syncs, so that was the guy we just brought in. So once he synced, here he is. Here's just 11 Charlie. You can see his information. So, he said he had a secret. He said he had these certifications. These are the years experience he has by different functions. So all this information is here. And then, if I click on this, it'll take you back and show you, all right, here's the 7 jobs he's initially aligning to. And again, so it helps you really quickly understand how to see a veteran's data, how it aligns to your information, and how you can actually use them. So, and again, a lot of veterans will rewrite a resume and they won't know if they're aligned to the job, and they'll send it in and it'll be on the wrong job. And so now they get screened out almost immediately. And so what we're trying to show you is, well, there's other jobs that this person could do. So now if I say, here's this US Air Force guy again, and this time I'm looking at the demand for Parsons. So I just wanted to show you that, we syndicated at Jacobs, we syndicated Parsons, we syndicated to anybody who's in the syndicate will get this data to see and interact with. So we're updating here. So now once it's updated, you have the data. So let me save it. Cool. All right, so I showed you that the data is here. Now the other thing I want to show you about this, and I have to go back to MAG because they have a lot of real data, is that as this data is syncing, we're going to always show you kind of what the most important candidates at any given time are that are coming through this system. So I'm going to come over here back to MAG, back in the demand. Well, there's this little thing called supply top 10. So if I come over here to supply top 10, so what you're seeing right now, let's make sure it's 10 days. I can say in the last 10 days, folks that have come to the MAG site and sync to MAG's data, here are the top 10 guys. And we know that because we basically understand the valuation of a job based on the data set. So by that, I mean, if I go back to demand, so you can see this ground school instructor, the requirements that are right here, because each one of those requirements is a little set of data. We can relate them to each other, and that's how we come up with this thing called the op value. So an op value is basically what we think the technical value of these requirements put together is at this location in Saudi. And so it's a mean base level. So what you're seeing here at any given time, let's go to something else, to software, is basically we're giving basically what we think is a highly calibrated estimate of the valuation of a senior software engineer, with 8 years experience and a TSSCI with 3 years of C4ISR. When you put all these requirements together, we're like, that's probably the mean base salary level to get an individual with those requirements. So because we know this, what we're doing is we're creating something called an enterprise technical fitness value. So that's this number over here, and we're not saying that, this person that came in 7 days ago was worth $1.8 million to the enterprise. What we're saying is the technical demands that are in your jobs, this person fulfills a lot of them because he gave you this data. So let's go see what this guy is. All right, he's a pilot. So you can see his certifications here. He has a TSSCI. He has 15 years doing these things. He's a naval flight officer. Well, the reason this is so valuable to MAG is because they have a lot of pilot jobs open and a lot of program sort of management jobs with the military open. So having 15 years as a pilot with a TSSCI is syncing him to, he's related to 24 different open positions they have here. So as you go through and see this person is syncing to 21, this one's syncing to 21. These folks are syncing to these different jobs because the data set is very valuable. Now, so here's another person we opened up. So this guy is not a pilot, but he has a TSSCI and he understands blockchain and he's a network architect. Yeah, he's a US Army 25. So he's a signal. This guy works in signals. So that's why he's so important for MAG. So, and again, this is all keyed off of your demand. So again, MAG is really into IT guys and pilots or aviation guys. So the civil engineer came into MAG, that's not that important to them. So, if I go over here and I type, so I'm back in supply line. This is everybody that's come and interacted with them. If I look for civil engineers, now look, there are some actually. That's so now I can say, hey, I looked for civil engineers. This guy came in, 19 days ago. So that's funny. He's a pilot and he has civil engineering background. So that's, he's an aviation maintenance tech. So he got out, went to school, did certain things, but he has the civil engineering background as well as being aviation. Here's another guy that says he can do civil engineering. So now I look, I'm like, yep, he's a 12 alpha. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right, what about civil engineers with a clearance? Yep, okay, we got this guy that came in 200 days ago. Yep, he's got civil engineering and he's got a TSSCI. So what I wanted to show you is by having the syndicate kind of always pushing you data, you're going to always have this supply line, which is getting completely refreshed. And you can see here someone that came in a day ago. So now you can come over and say, I'm looking for someone that knows, do something else here. I'm looking for someone that knows cybersecurity. I go, okay, here's the folks that know cybersecurity. And again, because we know it's in their data set. Again, data security and a high level clearance and at least a bachelor's. Okay, well, this is an Army contract. So I want, someone in the Army. And so all of this, because everything is so structured, US Air Force, you can get really, really discreet. So here's someone that came in that meets cybersecurity, TSSCI bachelor's, and was in the US Air Force. So let's look. Yep, there's the TSSCI, 17 DX, yep, cyber operations. Yeah, he's an officer, he's got the bachelor's. So it's all about bringing you the data. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you, is that if you're in the Society of American Military Engineers, S2, we're going to bring all these people to you all the time. And so let me show you one other thing. So we talked about, so I showed you supply, I showed you demand. What I also want to show you is this right here, this URL. So that is basically the URL that leads any veteran into the cloud. So just with that series of digits right there, so we no longer have to bring people to a career site to have them interact at the career site. We're going to, but we can now push this out, and we will, into veterans groups, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, all these other social media applications. We push out this little URL, a veteran clicks on it, and then bang, they're right into branch, rank, MOS, and they're off and running. So we don't have to count on people coming and finding us. We're going to go out there and start finding them, and then harvest this data and bring it to you guys so that you can utilize it better. So that's the the general discussion. I know I talked about a lot of things, so let me come back to this. So we're going to start syncing veterans to the system today. Like Joe said, we're going to spend the next 90 days really refining, defining, and getting feedback from all you folks on what you like, what you don't like, how to make it better, etc. But on the user side, the individual side, we have a whole bunch of tools for veterans so that they can see your jobs and understand your jobs all the time, everywhere. So again, we're going to bring people in through the site itself, through that VetLine social application, and then we at Opline will also be pushing you people. So when someone comes into our site, basically we do the same thing. Branch rank MOS. Here, I'll show you that in just a second. So branch rank MOS, and then we start to show them all the jobs that they're aligned to. So this is Opline on the individual user side. So if I go in as an individual user, I'm going to go in. I've synced up to the system with branch rank MOS, and then I say, hey, there are a ton of jobs for you here. And if you're in the syndicate, well, your jobs are in here as well. And then coming to the top. So here's this one from Mott McDonald. So right there's the job. This person can see that, hey, they met the initial requirements, 5 years as safety specialist. Well, now they're over here. They can start, again, saying, oh, I have this, and I do speak Spanish, and I have this. They can tell you, I understand all these things, and I have this and this requirement. And what they're doing by clicking these off is, well, they're building their resume, but they're also now saying, hey, Mott McDonald, not only am I fully qualified here, I am interested in talking to you. So we're going to be sending people from Opline directly over to you as well, so that you'll be harvesting, directly from the Society of American Military Engineers site, from the S2 interaction, and then further from inside the system as well. Because what we're doing for individuals, one more thing. What we're doing for individuals is not only are we showing them jobs they're initially qualified for, we're also dragging them onto the X. So we're taking your requirements that you're asking for, and then we're putting them in front of this individual, like really quickly, so he can continuously tell us if he has this requirement or not. Yes, I do this. Yes, I have computer skills. Yes, I can work nights. Yes, I have good communication skills. Again, that's enlisted. So, and so again, we're kind of a 360-degree kind of data exchange for once you're in the system. Once we see your demand, we're always trying to bring the best veterans, or the best anybody. This works everywhere, but veterans are our key right now, across to you. So I just wanted to show you that really quickly, because that's the other side of the aisle. Is we're going to be bringing all these veterans to you, and the more the better we are at syncing your data, the more veterans you're going to see. So we're going to pull people in directly. All right, so we're going to start doing this today. At 11 o'clock, we're talking to a whole bunch of veterans. We're going to push them into the system. We're going to start syncing them to the S2, so that you'll be able to start seeing them immediately as well. So, yes, go ahead. So the whole idea is start the pilot today. If you want to be in, you're in. Just say so. So the next step is just to do a one-on-one demo, because I'm sure you have lots of questions specifically about your own demand and your own jobs and how to use the system. Again, I did a lot of pointing and clicking today. It's actually a lot simpler than that. You basically only have to look at one spot, and that's just supply line. So we'll get one-on-one demos, and then we're available 24/7. And the next 90 days, we want to show you all the different things we can do and get your feedback on what you like and don't like, so that we can come out with sort of a 2.0 release, 90 days from now, that is right on top of the target and, Pareto positive for everybody, and really gets the S2 humming. So that's kind of, my spiel. We'll make sure we send this out to you, so that you can understand. We're going to do live demos on this for the S2 every Tuesday and Thursday of March and April. And here's the link, to send other people in your company to come back and look at again. So we'll send this out. You just click on this link and you sign up. But yeah, every Tuesday and Thursday in March and April from 11 to 12, we're going to do the same live demo. So you can come back as many times as you want, ask as many questions as you want, etc. And then, here's our emails right here. So you can reach out to us at any given time, and we'll be here to pick it up and walk you through. We still got 10 minutes. I try not to, I like the sound of my own voice apparently. So I'll hand it back to you, and you can tell me to go left or right and which questions we need to answer, et cetera.
Sure. So it looks like Brian and Jeff were able to answer most of the questions in there. Brian or Jeff, is there anything that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, just one, Mike. Obviously, this is a kind of military veteran focus, but it can you just address it? It applies to all walks of life as well.
Yeah, this was the subject of this was veteran hiring. But if you go to opline.com, you can see basically we can sync anybody to your job set with about a 60-second interaction. Just vets are unique because they have these alphanumerics that they already assigned to themselves and how they understand themselves. So yeah, I'd say the only reason we can do veterans is because we can do everybody else in the marketplace, because veterans have that that one other degree of detachment, which is they understand themselves as their branch and their rank. So.
Great. Well, if there's no other questions, I think that's it. We have some job seekers that'll be joining us at 11, and we'll be able to send this presentation to everybody along with a link to the recording. So thank you all for joining.